My sister stole my identity and ran up $78,000 in debt. My parents said, just forgive her, she's family. I filed a police report. At her arraignment, they showed up to testify against me until the judge asked one question that made my mother stop crying and start shaking. I found out my identity had been stolen because my debit card stopped working while I was buying groceries after work. The cashier smiled and said, looks like your bank declined it. I knew there was money in my account. I stepped aside and checked my phone. Everything looked normal until I noticed several missed calls from my bank's fraud department. When I called back, the representative asked if I had recently opened 2 credit cards, financed a luxury SUV, and signed a lease for an apartment in another state. I said no to every question. Within weeks, the truth started coming out. Someone had opened accounts using my social security number, taken out loans, financed a vehicle, and stopped making payments. By the time investigators finished adding everything together, the debt totaled more than $78,000. My credit score was destroyed. Every application contained my personal information. The investigator eventually asked if any family members had access to old documents. That question hit me hard. A few years earlier, I had stored tax records, insurance paperwork, and copies of important documents in a box at my parents' house. I drove there immediately. The box was gone. When I asked my mother about it, she shrugged. I cleaned out a lot of old stuff. Then my younger sister, Kayla, walked into the kitchen carrying takeout. The moment she saw me, her expression changed. Only for a second, but I noticed. Kayla had always been the favorite child. My parents constantly rescued her from bad decisions, unpaid bills, broken leases, lost jobs. Somehow, someone else always ended up fixing everything. I asked if Kayla had touched my documents. She laughed and said no. My father immediately stepped in. Stop accusing your sister. I left with a knot in my stomach. A month later, investigators confirmed everything. Security footage, electronic records, loan applications, dealership paperwork. Every trail led directly to Kayla. The apartment manager identified her. The dealership had video of her signing documents. Several applications even used my parents' address. The detective looked at me and said, this is one of the clearest identity theft cases I've handled. I decided to confront Kayla before the arrest. We met at a coffee shop. I placed copies of the evidence on the table. She stared at them and went pale. She didn't deny it. I was going to fix it, she whispered. You financed a vehicle. I needed transportation. You took loans in my name. I thought I'd pay them back. You destroyed my credit. She started crying. I didn't think it would get this bad. The next day, my parents showed up at my apartment. My mother hugged Kayla while staring at me. She's your sister. Dad crossed his arms. You don't send family to jail. The police are already involved, I said. Mom grabbed my hand. Please don't ruin her future. I pulled away. She spent 2 years ruining mine. For weeks, they pressured me. Relatives called saying families should forgive each other. Kayla sent messages promising she would repay everything eventually. I ignored all of them. The prosecutor moved forward with fraud and identity theft charges. My parents hired a lawyer for Kayla. Not once did they offer to help repair the damage she caused. At the arraignment, I sat behind the prosecutor and listened. Kayla avoided eye contact. My mother cried throughout the hearing. Then my parents did something unbelievable. They tried to defend Kayla by claiming I had given her permission to use my information years earlier. The prosecutor stood up. Your Honor, may I ask a question? The judge nodded. The prosecutor looked at my mother. When exactly did your son give Kayla permission to use his social security number? Mom answered immediately. When he left those papers in our basement. The room became silent. The prosecutor waited a moment. So you knew those documents were still there? Yes. And you knew Kayla had access to them? Mom hesitated. The prosecutor picked up a report. During your interview with detectives, you stated those papers had been thrown away years ago. My mother's face turned white. The prosecutor continued. Were you mistaken then, or are you mistaken now? Her crying stopped instantly. Her hands started shaking. Even Kayla looked stunned. The judge leaned forward. I suggest the witness speak with counsel before making any further statements. The hearing ended shortly afterward. Kayla eventually accepted a plea agreement rather than face trial. Part of the agreement required restitution and formal acknowledgement that every account had been opened fraudulently. Once the court records were finalized, lenders removed the fraudulent debts from my credit history. Repairing everything still took months. My parents kept reaching out. Birthday cards, holiday invitations, voicemails asking me to come home. There was never an apology, only requests for forgiveness.